Hello guys, Dan here from Dan's Tech, and in today's video guys I'm going to be showing you how to make a computer somewhat quieter. Now, if you guys don't remember, I did build my sister a gaming computer, and that was the 2016 how to build a PC guide that I kind of made for the beginning of this year. And that PC does work. It hasn't set on fire yet with it being an AMD machine. But one thing that it is it's a little bit loud. We did go with the AMD stock cooler, which to be honest, that thing's not exactly quiet, and it's probably the reason why AMD are actually working on a new cooler for their new Zen CPUs that are on the AM4 socket, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, the case that we used, the Fractal Design Core 1100, is a little bit thinner when you compare to normal kind of micro ATX cases, and it does only come with a single 120mm fan. And to be honest, with that being in the front and not having grills, I don't really know where it gets its air from. And in general, I just think the case temperature, while doing a little bit of gaming and stuff, does get a little bit warm. And therefore, also, I think the GPU fans do spin up a little bit faster, creating yet again more noise. So what we're going to do to solve this is that we're going to be installing a 92mm fan from Arctic. This is the PWM fan 4-pin. So this is going to be the exhaust fan in the case, since it doesn't actually have one. And then for the CPU cooler, we're going to be changing it that nasty AMD heatsink and going with the Arctic Freezer A11. This is pretty good CPU cooler. It's got 3 copper heat pipes. It is a relatively short cooler, this, hence kind of the box being pretty damn small. And yeah, it does come there with the 92mm fan. Does support PWM, of course, so the fan will increase speed when the temperatures go up, and then it'll go down to a relatively quiet operation of kind of like noise when yeah, the PC's kind of idling, or working on, say, reports and stuff like that. So yeah, we're going to be installing these products, and hopefully you guys learn something in terms of how to kind of make a computer silent and all that kind of stuff. And now let's kind of get into the video, and yeah, let's install these parts. To get started, as for a quick overview of the parts, the CPU cooler, as mentioned, is the Arctic Freezer A11, and from my research, one of the largest I could find that would fit inside of the Fractal Design Core 1100. Now, it comes in at 130mm tall, 108mm wide, 90mm deep, with the fan attached. Now, the weight of the cooler is less than half a kilogram at 430 grams, purely because of its compact size. Now, the cooler features many aluminium fins with 3 6mm thick direct touch copper heat pipes, and as for the fan is 92mm. Features a fluid dynamic bearing, comes with a 4-pin PWM connector, and is ready to spin between 500 and 2000 RPM. Also included in the package is Arctic's renowned MX4 thermal compound and all the mounting hardware needed for installation. This includes mounting bars, screws, and also plastic spacers. Moving on to the rear fan I chose for this project, the maximum size the case supports around back is a 92mm fan, so that's exactly what I decided to grab. Now, this Arctic F9 PWM PST fan is ready to spin between 550 and 1800 RPM, and does also feature a fluid dynamic bearing just like the fan on the CPU cooler, and does also feature a PWM sharing feature called PST that Arctic have implemented into the cable, but more on this later. So to get started with installing the parts, you'll want to crack open your case by removing the 4 screws around back and sliding off both of the side panels. Now, depending whether your case has a CPU cooler cutout around back, this will rather mean you'll have to take the motherboard out of your machine or not. Now, unfortunately, as this case was rather cheap, it doesn't feature a CPU cutout, so I had to disassemble the machine and take the motherboard out of the case. Now, if any of you guys are watching and do have to do this, and are new to computer hardware and don't feel comfortable doing this, do feel free to check out my 2016 how to build a gaming PC guide, and this will hopefully give you the knowledge on how to do this safely. I'll have this link somewhere in the video and in the description. Once you've got your motherboard out of the case, you'll want to remove the stock cooler. Now, as this is an AMD based system, taking off the stock heatsink is rather easy and just requires you to flip the plastic retention arm around on the cooler and to unclip both sides. Once this has been done, you should be able to pull the cooler off, maybe giving it a little twist to loosen the thermal compound if needed. On the other hand, on Intel platforms, you want to turn the 4 push pins and pull them towards you, and then you can pull the cooler straight off, again giving it a little twist to loosen the thermal compound if needed. Pretty easy stuff. Next is removing the thermal compound, as we'll be applying the fresh MX4 compound that Arctic have provided with the cooler. Isopropyl alcohol and kit-in tissue is what I found to be the best thing to use here. You want to put a little of the alcohol onto the tissue and wipe the compound off the CPU. Also, if you aren't simply throwing away the old heatsink, you'll want to remove the compound off that as well. If you don't have any isopropyl alcohol, you can just use water. However, this will make getting the compound off the CPU take a little longer. Also, be sure there's no water on the CPU or around the motherboard when turning on your machine, as water doesn't evaporate at the extremely fast rate like isopropyl alcohol does. After you've removed the thermal compound, you want to remove the plastic clips on the board around the CPU socket, making sure to keep hold of the 4 screws as you'll need them in a moment to install the cooler. Next up, you want to place the plastic white spaces from the CPU cooler box onto the holes near the motherboard, making sure the back plate is still in place after unscrewing the plastic clips. As for preparing the cooler for mounting, you want to grab the metal AMD mounting clips that came in the box and screw these onto the bottom of the cooler with the 4 screws provided with the cooler. Once you've done this, you want to add a little thermal paste on top of the CPU. Arctic do only provide a little, so be careful when applying it. Add enough thermal paste to resemble a small uncooked grain of rice or a small blob resembling a small pea. Now onto the installation, simply place the cooler onto the CPU carefully and hold it in place. Sometimes the thermal compound may make it slide off the processor. Now grab the 4 screws I told you to keep hold of earlier and start to screw the cooler into place, screwing down the screws in 25% increments. This ensures equal pressure is applied and that you don't damage your CPU and do naturally spread the thermal compound in an even fashion. Now that you've got the cooler installed, you'll want to clip the fan back onto the cooler and then plug the 4-pin fan connector into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Now that I've installed the CPU cooler, the next thing to do is to install the rear 92mm fan I also picked up for this project. Installing this can take less than a minute and just requires you to align the fan up to the case's screw holes and then screwing it in with the 4 screws that came with the fan. As this fan includes a PWM plug adapter and is not a standard 4-pin cable, you can additionally plug the CPU fan header into this adapter, then plug the rear fan into the CPU fan header. This is a feature Arctic have implemented into their products, and one reason both of these products chosen today are from Arctic. If you're wanting to add any additional fans to the case, with these being larger or smaller fans, you just simply need to align these to the case and screw them in where space permits. Just don't forget to plug them in. Now that this upgrade is complete, I want to put the case's side panels back on and additionally put the computer back together in my case. Now I hope this video has been useful, and that if there's a most useful tip I can give you is that it's to find the loudest fan inside the computer and replace that. In my sister's computer, as mentioned at the beginning of the video, the loudest fan in this computer was the one on the AMD stock heatsink. That's why this did indeed get swapped out in this project for the Arctic heatsink and fan. Now if the case fan is the loudest component in your computer, then simply upgrade this and it'll be a simpler and also cheaper project for you to perform. Also keep in mind that using more fans in the case will generally give you better noise levels if they are lower spinning fans. More fans does not typically mean more noise as soon as they are quiet fans. Be sure to check the specs of a fan on the manufacturer's website and seek out the RPM and the amount of noise that the fan makes in decibels before going out and purchasing them on, say, Amazon, just because they say quiet in the title. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this little project and that you've learnt something about making a computer a tad quieter. Also, do find links in the video for the how to build a gaming PC guide on the screen, as well as the giveaway video where I'm giving away 3 CPU air coolers. This giveaway does end in around 3 hours as it's been live now for 6 days, so be quick. Also, I'll leave Amazon UK and US links for all the products I've used today in the description as well. Feel free to like, comment and also subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.